Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome back to Starsector. In the previous episode, I left you surveying and scavenging and doing a bit of fighting. Now, I was in orbit of Sulawesi, and it turns out this is actually a really good world, because it has a bunch of bonuses attached to it. This is the planet that I'm talking about. Now, when you're looking at Starsector, you're looking at habitable worlds for colonies. This is where you want to set up shop. The lower the hazard rating, the better it's going to be. Some planets have a really high hazard rating. It's a completely inhospitable place. A gas giant, for example, yeah, not a great place to live. 325% hazard rating. The higher this is, the more difficult it's going to be to make a profit with it. So Sulawesi over here only has 125. Beside that, it has a couple of other extras. It does, unfortunately, have a decivilized debuff, making the hazard rating 25% higher than it should be. So if I can remove this, one way or another, I can remove the 25% and push it back to 100%. That would be fantastic. Because this thing has extensive ruins, which means you can find artifacts. It has rich farmland. It unfortunately is not great for mining ore, but otherwise, it's a good planet. So I would very much like to colonize this. Unfortunately, it's a bit early to do colonization. Because if you want to colonize the planet, you're going to have to bring, well, a lot of people. You're going to have to bring 1,000 people over. You're also going to have to get a couple of additional transports over there in order to bring supplies. You're going to have to invest millions upon millions into building out the colony. Now, let me see if I want these ships. A heavy, outdated frigate. It's not a great way to sell me that ship. No, thank you. I'll salvage that. And here we go. Establish a colony. What I need is 1,000 personnel. This is going to get consumed. So all the crew, and then some that I have, are going to be required for this operation. They also need 1,000 heavy machinery, and they need 200 supplies. Unfortunately, I have none of those. Now, it does say a colony established here has an accessibility of 57%. The more your accessibility, the better it's going to be. Because that means that it's easier to get to various sides of the planet, and it means that the planet is going to output more resources. So more accessibility, more profit, more ships, bigger empire. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, it's a bit early. So right now, I might have to go back, or maybe even deeper into the area here, and get a couple of additional bounties completed. Because with that money, I might be able to then get a couple of bigger warships, maybe scavenge some warships along the way, and then be able to set up shop on Sulawesi. So, let's get out there and go and do a bit of fighting. A few minutes later, I've located a bounty. This is a really easy one. It is not going to pay me that much, but it will give me a little bit more experience and potentially some additional ships, although they're using some fairly old, trashy freighters. Let's move into engage and take care of this group. We're going to send in the Rel, we're going to send in my shuttles, I'm going to send in the Travis Metzger, the Raider frigate, and beyond that I have no combat capable ships. Well, I got the carrier, but the carrier, it's pretty expensive to deploy, and that's something else I'm looking at. 19 points, or 19 units of supplies is going to be required to retrieve my fleet. It's not repair it, just retrieve it out of combat. So this is something I want to try and keep low, especially early game, because supplies, well, they're not that easy to come by. On the other side, the carrier is nice to have, but for now, I'm going to do without it. So, what do we have? Let's take care of some freighters. I do have my siege cannon on this ship, and with that, I can... Oh, already, here we get a contact. Shields up. Trading fire, this shuttle versus their shuttle. I suspect that the siege cannon doesn't have a very quick projectile, so getting a shot in... There we go. It's going to have to be a timed situation. And it cools down for a very long time. Let's do the alts. Let's do the other guns do some damaging. There we go. One down. Here's the actual bounty now. Now, if I can flank this guy, that'd be great. Because then their shields, whoa, which aren't even there anymore, are not going to be effective. Fire. Nope, shields took it. This ship is in a very precarious spot. It now has the choice. Do I lower my shields and expose the hull? Or do I raise my shields and risk overloading? neither is particularly appealing. So this is exactly the kind of spot where you want a ship to be in. Unfortunately, I'm kind of being harassed by this frigate over here. So we're going to have to properly motivate this guy to leave me alone while I take out the main bounty. Looks like the Travis Metzger is taking a beating out there. I'm going to have to quickly dump my flux. Ventilating the ship. Good hit. Yeah, we should be able to get this guy. Unfortunately, this has given their allies some opportunity to get rid of all the flux that I had carefully built up. So, that is a bit sad. Fire. But, considering how quickly this thing overfluxes, and I don't, we should be fine. I also have my MRM, my missiles. So let's put some missiles onto targets. They're going to try and flank the ship, and there's the damage. I was hoping to get their engines offline, but that didn't quite materialize. Go on. Yeah, now you're completely vulnerable. Fire. Oh, they just raised their shields. Alright. Oh, I completely missed overfluxing. Reverse. The more I damage the hull, the worse it's going to be, because that is going to add to my repair bill. Now, we do appear to be doing a 2v4, which is the odds that I like. Let's vent the rest of my flux. I really, ideally, do not want to give this guy any opportunity to fix their flux. Unfortunately, I might not really be the one to have to say in that. Yeah. Whoops. Here we go. Fire. Missiles are cycling. Now, sometimes you got missiles which have a limited missile capacity, like a limited ammo capacity. These are not those types of missiles. These have what's known as an autoforge, which means that you basically build missiles aboard the ship. It's a really nice feature. It also means that the missile tends to be a little less powerful. Come on. Yeah, they're completely dead in the water. They're overfluxed. They're basically overextended as well. And they're really not any... Yeah, they're gone. There's no way out for them. Gone. Dump the flux. Let's finish up the last guy. And then get another 50k paid out as the bounty. Come on, and I'll make it quick. Missiles out. And there she goes. Fleet defeated. No casualties on my part. Do I want to recover anything? Not the freighter, and not the other freighter. And their shuttle, I'm not going to spend a story point on the shuttle. So let's pick through the wreckage, get some supplies. That should cover the cost of getting back my ships. Maybe a little bit more than that. All of this metal I don't really care about, because it is something that is not very valuable. So I'm just going to let that fly around. Okay, that was a nice commission. 54k, I received 1500 from the society, so I'm also getting a slight commission there, but it's really not a whole lot of money. Now, time to find some more ways to make money. Now, back at the starbase, it is time to do a bit of money expending. Let's start buying equipment for the carrier. This is going to be the Bearborn, another one of my loyal patrons. The Bearborn currently is this carrier equipped with a couple of heavy interceptors, as well as a torpedo bomber wing. These guys carry the Atropos torpedo. This thing is fast, it has good tracking, and it does 1000 points of damage, which for early game I find perfectly fine. Now, in various bases, I should say, you can find all sorts of different weapons you can put on a carrier. Generally, the more damage that they do, the more expensive that they're going to be. And expensive in the sense of ordnance points. How much are you paying in ordnance points, so how much you can put on this ship, in the sense of this bomber? Well, this is 25. This thing is, well, a bomber slash, as they say, a fighter originating from a mildly successful freight corvette. So it's a large fighter. It comes with its own hull mod. It even has a hopper drive. So with that, it's going to be, I guess, faster? Doesn't even say what the hopper drive does. It has a Vulcan cannon, so it can defend itself. It can fire its rocket pods from the Annihilator class, which does 200 points of damage. And they carry 5 of those, so that's another 1,000 damage in total. And they carry 2 hammer torps. So this thing would be a great way to kill a cruiser. Since I still have some spots open, I don't mind. It is only one of these guys in a wing, though. So this means you lose this plane, well, this fighter, this bomber. You're kind of out for quite a while, because the carrier is going to take a while to rebuild the wing. As for the other ones, I can get another one of these. I can also get the Scoralis Heavy Bomber, which launches flares, and the Rakaton Guided Torpedo. I'm not familiar with that one. Fast speed, good tracking does 500 points of damage and 500 points of EMP damage. That is useful. EMP damage tends to shut down a whole ship. So that is very valuable. And I also like the fact that these are fast torps with good tracking. The Cobra Bomber fires a Reaper torpedo. They're fast and they do tons and tons of damage. Like 4,000 points of damage. Which in this game tends to be a heck of a lot and shuts down most ships. Now I don't want to make this thing a complete bomber. These heavy interceptors are fine. The way that they currently are. They have an ion cannon, which is able to shut down parts of a ship. It has dual machine guns to make sure that it can take care of enemy planes, well, enemy fighters. And it also comes equipped with its own Swarmer SRM launcher, which does an okay, well, albeit a little amount of damage against a couple of armored units. So if the shields are down, great. Otherwise, not that useful. But I'm basically using these guys as distractions / units to clear the way for the big hitter, the Tapa Drone Superiority Bomber. As for gear, this thing is part of the 6th battle group refit of this class. It has flux dissipation increased by 10%, which is what you really don't need on a carrier. Because if the carrier is going into fighting, something along the lines of your battle has probably gone wrong. Ballistic rangefinder, similarly not useful. It means the ship can shoot farther. Integrated point defense AI is useful because it means that if the carrier comes under attack, it is better able to defend itself. Now, it is equipped with a couple of PD lasers. I don't want to slap this thing full of PDs, nor really weapons of any kind. The only thing this has to do is pretty much be able to run. So I can give it an unstable injector and make it very quick. And be able to survive. And for that, well, it can get a hypervelocity driver. Because this is a long-ranged weapon with perfect accuracy. But outside of that, like maybe a couple of point defense, and that'll be it. So you're gonna get a Vulcan cannon. Let's put a Vulcan cannon on that side. This side's covered by the PD laser. And we're gonna have the PD laser there. So that's basically it. Means the rest of the points, I can spend those on potentially getting a different type of unit. Maybe the heavy fighter. But outside of that, I'm not really seeing any very interesting gear. As for other weapons, they can carry a torpedo launcher, which has medium speed and excellent tracking. It also does a bunch of damage, but I think this weapon's actually more useful. Because this does 200% damage to shields. So if you are looking at a shielded target, the hypervelocity driver will strip the target of the shield. And then the big bird comes in, the Tapa bomber, and hits it with 2 of those hammer class torps. Potentially immediately wiping out the target. And with the high speed of the ship, it can keep up with, well, pretty much anything. Yeah, I guess I can make the engines a bit safer. To make sure that this ship, if it comes under fire, doesn't lose its engine. Increases the durability of the engines by 100%. Now, we have quite a few other ships to go through. Oh yeah, just the weapon groups, it's fine. Also assign. I won't be piloting that ship. What we have over here is another unit. What is this? It's a corvette. Small ship. But it's fast. These things tend to zip around, and this thing is doing 158. It might be faster if I still add an unstable injector, and it's going to go 183. This thing is zipping around the place. What it's not that good at is taking any kind of damage, because it has almost no armor. It does not have a very high flux capacity, so keeping its shield up for a long amount of time is going to be very draining. And its hull integrity is basically getting taken out by one shot. This thing is there to capture points extremely quickly, and then maybe punch some things in the face with an antimatter blaster. Because these tend to do quite a lot of damage. The range is a bit limited, but they can just burst a lot of damage. So I'm going to give them 2 of those, and the rest of it is going to go into vents and capacitors. That's all I need. This thing's going to fire a few shots. I don't care about the other slots, and it's mostly a distraction. This is the Ken Mrozak. Then we got this big thing. What is this? It's a destroyer. It's an enforcer class. Not nearly as quick, but a heck of a lot more durable. Hull integrity is very good. Armor rating is 900 points. So even if the shield does drop, this thing will be able to take some damage. It also has blast doors, and that's why the hull integrity is even higher than normal, because it increases the survivability of the ship by 60%. Well, the ship takes 60% fewer crew casualties, increases hull integrity by 20%. So this is when the hull mods really get useful. Unfortunately, the ship has some degraded shields, which means that shields or shots that hit the shield do actually quite a lot of damage to the amount of flux that the ship is taking or building up. Now, what I want with this thing, let's see, it has Sabo SRM. Those are pretty good against shields, able to damage shields very quickly. It also has a harpoon in order to kill something off entirely. It has another harpoon. So ideally the AI would fire this one first, and then get the harpoons fired in after that. Considering how deadly these things are going to be, I'm going to try and fit something on here that does anti-shield weapon, or anti-shield damage. So like this. The railgun. Perfect accuracy, fast turn rate, it can deal with shields, it can also start dealing with armor pretty quickly. But there is a bigger option. And that's the Magera twin-linked railgun. This thing has a lot of range, and it also does a heck of a lot of damage to shields. It will, however, very much strain the amount of flux that this thing is going to be building up. So if I want to run this ship like this, it is possible, but I might, for the time being, need to run the flux distributor to at least get rid of that. And I think, like, these medium ballistic slots are gonna be defensive. Because I really can't afford to field a whole bunch of offensive weapons on here. Now at this point I'm basically overfluxing the ship. Weapon flux is very much approaching flux dissipation, and I am paying for shield with a bit of flux per second, so I'm already over that. But that is with the understanding that the Vulcan cannon is not going to fire all the time. This is just firing when there is a threat. Let's see. Yeah, let's put another Sabo on there if I can find it. We've got 2 Sabos there. This fires 3 Sabos. I can also mount even more harpoons. So this thing could be a complete killer. Yeah, let's put a harpoon on there. I really like the harpoons. They're medium trackers, medium speed. They're just generally very reliable. They do a lot of damage. As for the rest, I have a medium ballistic slot over here. I don't really want to put a whole lot on there. Like maybe remove this one and get a smaller anti-shield weapon. Like a light dual autocannon should do the trick. I try not to overflux these ships too much. Light dual autocannon there. Yeah, it's a bit overfluxed, but it should be able to survive, well, for a while. Armored weapon mounts makes this thing even more durable. It adds a little bit more armor to the ship. And outside of that, yeah, auxiliary thrusters could be useful for this thing, because this hull is not particularly agile. As for a name, let's go with Tony, one of my YouTube members. Next up, this is a phase frigate. It does not have a shield, but it has a cloaking device. So this thing, if it comes under fire, it cloaks very quickly. And because it cloaks, it's completely impervious to any kind of damage. But as it cloaks, it builds up flux. Which means that at some point it's going to have to drop out of cloak, decloak itself, and then become extremely, extremely vulnerable. So that's a bit of a problem. It does have some upgrades, the Cabal upgrades. It's part of a mod that I have. They get some stat changes. It also has delicate machinery. Increases the rate of in-combat combat reduction decay after peak by 50%. So this thing does not have a lot of durability. Peak performance per second, first column, is only 180 seconds or 3 minutes. It also has a glitched sensor array. Weapon range is reduced by 10%, but that's not that big of a deal. It comes equipped with a couple of antimatter blasters. So, okay. This is interesting. This thing does damage to hull and armor and weapons, and shields. And then it finishes it off with a torpedo. This thing does 4,000 points of damage. That last point, I could give it another antimatter blaster. Or I can give it a harpoon, which is also a finisher. It just doesn't do nearly as much damage. But this is one torp. And this is the one that still has a bit of guidance, but I get 3 of them. As for the rest, let's make sure that these guys can get away safely. So that's going to be, well, I could use safety overrides and an unstable injector, giving these things a top speed of 240. Extremely quick. For this ship, don't really care about how much flux dissipation it has. I want to have more duration on the cloak. Actually, I'm going to take one of these off. This is a bit much. You don't need 240 points of speed. And let's put the rest in defense. As for a name, let's go with David Gray. There we go. 2 more ships. We have the Ionian Regent, or at least that's the placeholder name. It has a termination sequence. This thing has a fighter bay, Terminator drones. They are point defense drones. But with its ability, it does something a little bit different with that drone. It supercharges them, sending them after a target. The drone deals 1200 energy damage and 600 EMP damage on impact. And charging it generates 600 flux. So the ship itself is going to start building up a bunch of flux as it charges up that drone to send it off to its death. Outside of that, it's going to have to rebuild one of those drones, which takes a little bit of time. Now, it is armed with another harpoon. The rest of these... Wow, you can put a lightning gun on this thing? It's a curious weapon. I haven't used those a whole lot, but I'm interested to see whether that's going to work. Yeah. Let's maximize the vents first and then the capacitors. That should be better. As for the name, the Pisswasser. Yeah, I didn't come up with it either. Weapon groups, auto-assign. It's going to be an AI ship. This looks absolutely ridiculous. The weapons are almost bigger than the ship. And then the last one, a Hunter Frigate. Phase Skimmer is going to allow this thing rapid teleportation in the direction of the travel. So with this, you can very quickly beam yourself around target, suddenly being able to flank a target. Unfortunately, it only has 1 medium weapon point at the front. I can put a heavy blaster in that, or I can put an antimatter blaster. I think the heavy blaster is going to be fine. It does 500 DPS. This thing does 137, but it has more of a burst charge, if you will, because it has 20 charges inside before it has to, let's say, reload the canister. Let's put a heavy blaster in there. Weapon flux is bizarrely high, which is very dangerous. It's a small ship. Let's give it the antimatter blaster, because that, I feel, is a bit more in line with the weapon flux. As for the missile hardpoints, more harpoons is always better. Point defense laser on the port side. And for the right side, unfortunately, I have nothing. This saddens me, but, well, so be it. Mohammedi. There we go. That's the name of this ship. And now my fleet's actually getting quite sizable. Oh, I completely forgot about this point. I can put... I can put another Tornado Hornet launcher. Why not? Yeah. Medium armor. Medium speed. Excellent tracking. Let's go. It's going to be a missile boat. Let's see. What do I want on this ship? I can unfortunately not yet put expanded missile magazines on there, which would double the missile capacity. Because I simply don't have those yet. As for how long this thing can run, 180 seconds. With hardened subsystems, you can extend that by another 50%. But, well, it's a fairly fragile ship. I'm not sure if she'll survive. Heavy armor could work, making it a bit more durable. But I'd actually rather have more speed on this thing. You might, at this point, be seeing a trend. Stealth likes fast ships. You're not wrong. I like my ships to be fast. And especially with a whole fleet of them, you can get just a big wolf pack ganging up on a target and tearing it to pieces. And that's what I like to see. A little while later, on a different planet, I have found a Mercantile convoy that's about to depart. In 21 days, they're going to have a little trip going over to Mans. which is slightly northwest of my position, at least if you're looking at it as if it were a map. Now, these convoys tend to also want you to transport some more stuff. You'll be paid an additional 40,000, but you'll have to transfer 27,000 into an escrow account, which will be returned to you upon delivery. Unfortunately, I don't have that much space available, so for now I'm going to decline. I'm going to go to the Military Society's shipyard and see if there's any halfway decent freighters available. This one, for example, not necessarily great, because it's a freighter that has compromised storage. So it's a freighter that, well, can't freight, which is great. Over here we got one with structural damage, but otherwise fine. It has 600 cargo capacity. I'm going to buy that for 58k. I should be able to recoup that pretty quickly. At this point, all of my ships are starting to go, hey dude, you have more assignments than we have crew. So let's buy a bit of crew. Let's get some supplies in. Get some additional fuel into the ships. Drop this off, and now I should have more than enough capacity to go on this mission. The freighter that I just bought, the newly named Catfish Hunter, is actually a very suitable name for this ship. It's a custom freighter, and the Reparations Society has the ability to place a couple of fighters aboard this type of freighter. So I've placed a couple of Duke gunboats. These gunboats are capable of dealing with incoming missiles, as well as going on the offensive with their own pellet gun and rod MRM. They also have been granted a couple of PD burst lasers in order to defend the ship, and beyond that, the 600 cargo capacity should be perfect in order to keep all that stuff that the convoy wants me to keep safe. So now I'm going to offer them my services. I'm going to say, yep, I can now transport 1251. That is plenty that they want me to bring. Yep. Oh, come on. Oh, now I don't have enough money. They need me to pay 42k. I don't have that. That is unfortunate. I need to start selling off some gear. I can sell this off. I can sell the dagger off. I can sell my... No, you're not getting the survey data. I don't want anybody else to know about this beautiful planet that I have found. You're not going to know. So now, I'm interested in making more money. 120k for the escort duty, and then 55k for actually bringing over the additional stuff. So I've gained food, organics, and supplies. It's not simple as just sell off all the stuff and you'll be fine, sadly, because then the group at the other end of the spectrum is going to go, hey dude, where is my stuff? And if you then fail to deliver, well, you know, there goes your escrow account money. So now it's up to me to wait for this convoy to depart. And here we go. The AI of this Mercantile convoy tends to behave somewhat odd, in the sense that it flies all over the place, and if it bumps into your fleet, it thinks that it has, I don't know, collided with something and changes direction. I also think that, considering what is escorting that merchant group, they might actually have more firepower than I do. But hey, if we work together, if we stick together, we might be able to both deliver our cargo, if we're going to get faced with something like a pirate attack. Are you sure you want to go into that storm, dude? That will damage your ship, and that nebula is going to slow you down. Thankfully, we're already here. I'm going to Mans, which is a Ludic church world. I'm not that sure if they like me. Oh, actually they do. Well, there's a first. In all my other playthroughs, I tend to be not terribly well liked by these people. Let's put it that way. And I tend to just hunt them down with a passion. Okay, open the comms directory. Here is your stuff. I have now 143k available because I have been paid more stuff, and they want me to make a return trip. I can carry 1000 units of metals and 75 transplutonics for 51k. I can now accept the delivery. And I also saw that somebody had parked another Heron fast carrier over here. If you guys are going to keep parking your carriers in the wrong place, I will just take them for myself. So, yeah, that's kind of what I was worried about. I now don't have enough crew anymore, because that Heron is going to require quite a bit of crew. I'm going to, yeah, let's bring the missile loader, or missile autoloader. I'm not going to crew this thing fully just yet. I'm just going to mothball it because I don't want to work on it at the moment. It does come equipped with another Dagger Torpedo Wing and Thunderer Heavy Interceptor Wing. That's not bad. That is not bad. Okay, now we wait for these guys to deliver. And then we wait for them to depart in another 8 days. Why is half this group mothballed? That is really weird. I'm seeing a lot of freighters in that group. But all those things that have like the vault signal over them, the red vault, it's mothballed. Much like this. So they're not actually able to use these ships. Why they're mothballed? I don't know. Beats me. Oh, now they're loading. Alright. Oh, there's Galatia. Okay. It's a story base, if you will. Progresses you through the story of the game. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, no additional enemies showed up. So with this, I actually gained quite a bit of money. And I'm sitting on 336k. Which is nice. Let's see if these guys have any bigger ships available. Because this is a society military shipyard. They got a cruiser over here, the Lions. This thing has magnetized plating. Increases armor damage absorption when active. But it disables your weapons? I'm not sure why I would want that. Because that feels like you're making your ship vulnerable. And by doing that, like the armor might soak up the damage, but I'd want to do damage myself. I don't really like what they have here. This, however, could be better. It's a different type of cruiser. This is the King class. This is the Lions class. This thing has an Omniloader. Doubles the rate of fire for all non-missile weapons. 1.5 times damage for beams. It does generate harsh flux while active. So this thing should be able to deal quite a bit of damage. Let's bring one of those. And let's start equipping that. It's going to be a bit of an equipping episode by the looks of it. We do have a lot of missile launchers. Well, possibly missile launchers. I'm not sure I'm going to use those. Because I can fit medium ballistics on here. We can fit the pellet gun, which is an anti-shield at a range of 1,000. That's very nice. The Trixie is a tri-cannon for point defense. Not necessarily what I want. The rest of them, like the lower you go with the ordnance points, the worse it tends to be. There are some exceptions. I'm going to go with the pellet gun. I'm going to go with another pellet gun. This thing does more damage for all non-missile weapons. It doubles the ROF. Which means I'm going to have to do quite a lot of fluxing on this ship in order to be able to sustain that. Otherwise, I feel that I might be in a bit of trouble. Now, considering that these things will shred shields, I'm going to also have to do something about being able to kill armor. So something that does damage to armor would be great, like a light mortar. An IR pulse laser can do the trick. It does general damage, so yeah, it works. This works for ballistics. Yeah, all non-missile weapons, and 1.5 times the damage for beams. Okay. But this is not a beam weapon, this is a particle weapon. Prolonged burst of fire. It fires bursts of pulses. So it should be fine. That is the IR pulse laser. Let's put another one of those on. They can also double as a point defense to some extent. The back of the ship. Let's put some Bongo Seaways on there. To make sure that we get defenses against missiles, at least if we're attacked from behind. So I want to have another Bongo Seaways on there. And then the missiles. With this, we're going to have something that actually kills. I could put a Hammer class Torp on there, but that is basically, it flies out of the tube and doesn't look around to find a target. It has no tracking, which is something I don't really like. This thing does 100% damage to hull, but is basically a point defense missile. The rod does quite a bit of damage against armor, but has poor tracking. Fully enclosed missile programs its ammunition with ballistic trajectory prior to launch. It allows to fire otherwise unguided ordnance in all directions. So this does work quite well. We also got the hammers. Sorry, no, the Atropos. They're only single missiles, though. Can be a bit of a problem. I can bring like 2 of these Rod MRMs, medium range missiles. And then like maybe 2 Torps. Maybe 2 Atropos. If I really want something properly dead. These things have limited ammo and they do very little damage. But they should be capable of dealing at least the amount of damage that I seek. As for this main spot, considering that these will shred shields, this is going to be the main killer. And yes, I'll pretend I noticed this thing, which I actually didn't. It can fit a Mjolnir-class cannon, which is enormous firepower for a cruiser. It is a general weapon, but I kind of want the Hephaestus assault gun, because this is going to do a lot of damage against enemy armor. The problem is, I'm kind of overfluxed here. I can add capacitors, but if I want to also double my rate of fire, I'm going to be very, very quickly fluxed out. Very, very quickly overloaded, which I don't want. I can forego the missile launchers and free up some ordnance points there, but that's like, what, 10 ordnance points total? And potentially add like a flux coil adjunct to increase flux capacity, the total, or the flux dissipation with the flux distributor, which would be another 90 points. Tricky. I'm not too sure. Armored weapon mounts, I don't find that interesting. Expanded mags. Do I have anything that relies on pulses? Like, these things don't. These things don't. And these things also don't require that. So that's not that required. Maybe armored weapon mounts as a placeholder, really. Now, let's set this thing to about 75% rating. And let's see, its deployment cost is 20 points. How well does this do against a similar 20-point... Well, let's not go against a carrier. That's not really a fair fight for the carrier. Let's test it out against something else. Like the Peregrine, skirmish class cruiser. Alright. So I got the rods, I have the Atropos, and the rest of the guns are going to get managed by the AI, which I'm perfectly fine with. Perfectly fine with. Ray shields. Go on. Any day of the week now. That's my anti-shield weapons going off. I don't like the amount of damage that they're capable of doing at the moment, because they're outranging me. So now I have to disengage and or drop my shields in order to get rid of this flux. And at this point, I'm going to start taking hull damage. So, considering how bad this ship is performing right now, I might need to make some adjustments. I might need to put a safety override on it, so that it's going to be a lot faster. Or even an unstable injector. Oh, it's only 15 points. Problem is, safety overrides cost you 45. That's bad. So, alternatively, like a rangefinder, but I don't have that yet. Not so sure if this ship's going to be that useful. A dedicated targeting core. Yeah, this is going to be useful. 15 points. Let's free up 15 points by dropping all the missiles. And then dropping some capacitors. And then getting a dedicated targeting core. There. Everything's going to get handled by the AI. That's perfectly fine. We're going to go back to the Peregrine. And now I should have some better range. I'm going to give everything to the AI by just pressing 5, which is going to mean that I don't use any weapon. Everything's going to get handled by the AI. I'm going to focus on piloting the ship. There's the assault gun opening up. Yeah, now we're at least keeping the guy in range, but he's faster than I am. I'm doing 66, they're doing 80. No, we're going to flux out at pretty much the same time, so yeah, he's definitely going to win this. Fortunately, this is not a fight that I have to take on my own, because I got that whole Wolfpack thing going. I'm going to have to equip more of these ships together. So, in the next episode, we're going to do a bit of combat using this whole wing. And I'll make sure that I have the carrier set up and a different name for this ship. So thank you for watching. I hope you found it entertaining. Let me know what your thoughts are down below, and I'll see you soon for the next episode.